Roger, copy.
PM everyone. Welcome to another MoonDAO Town Hall this week. We don't have any outside guests this week, but we do have a little convo or presentation with Pablo about understanding MoonDAO and like how to get started with MoonDAO and just how to grok kind of the whole system of MoonDAO and how we operate. Yeah, good to see everyone. I think we can maybe start kicking things off. Pablo, how's it going?
There we go. Hey,
There you go.
it's going. I thought I would turn the camera on so it's a little bit more engaging here. But yeah, so I hope this one is recorded. I want this to be somewhat of like an evergreen kind of like, if someone has the question, how does MoonDAO work? They can kind of be pointed over to this town hall or this video. Essentially, we've been kind of heads down tinkering on MoonDAO for a while, and we keep, adding and editing and kind of fixing systems as we go online. We've gone through the project system. I think we're on our 6th iteration there, and our constitution, we've amended it I don't know how many times at this point. But what I wanted to go through now is kind of like looking back, a bit of a retrospective, like, okay, what is the full system end to end? How has this evolved, and what does it look like today? And essentially, this is just a doc, and this will live somewhere on our website at some point. It's the first time that we're kind of showing this. I wanted to try to get into like about 2 to 3 pages. I think that's probably the amount of attention span that if someone is actually dedicated and wants to look, they only go to one spot and they can read 2 pages. And have this be a bit of like an index to everything else that's going on at MoonDAO. And so I break it down kind of in 3 sections. So essentially, I think that if you want to understand how MoonDAO works, you need to understand basically 3 things. One is the MoonDAO Constitution. And so this kind of is our governance document. This is like how we organize the entire structure of how MoonDAO makes decisions. And as a DAO, the intent here is that we can kind of have this collective intelligence that kind of brings out the best of all of us, and we get to really good decisions. The second component of this is like the financial layer. And so the financial layer kind of responds to the governance layer. And the finance layer uh, includes also an accountability system. So like once the DAO decides something, so we have the ability to make a decision as a group. Now we actually have to execute on that, and we need to have a way, a method of having that system be accountable to the governance. And so that's what this project system is, what we call it, is how this is what we use for that sort of financial incentives layer that will kind of keep people accountable in implementing the proposals that MoonDAO passes. And then so this is like the core product of MoonDAO. So the way I like to think about this is essentially, MoonDAO or any organization needs to have a product or service that it provides to that is useful to people, that creates value in their lives, in order to generate revenue. And so that revenue needs to be greater than its expenses, because otherwise, then the organization dies. So you kind of need all of these to work. I think basically you can think of these in like layers. The governance is kind of at the biggest layer of everything, or the widest sort of like control platform for all of the other layers. And there's finance that sits on top of governance, and then lastly the product, which is what we hope to make as useful as possible to the space community to further MoonDAO's mission, which is basically to accelerate lunar economy such that we can accelerate the creation of a lunar base. And so this is so what I have here is basically an index to each of these three systems, and the core component of this to like comprehend is what I call the proposal life cycle. So like this is how does MoonDAO go from uh, making a decision to implementing that thing and rewarding that team, and then integrating that into the product. And so I've got a few of these kind of little drawings here because yeah, I thought sometimes it's nice to have drawings rather than just words. And basically I kind of walk through end to end what a proposal has to go through in order to get funded and then executed on at MoonDAO. And so I guess I'll start with this diagram here, and then I'll kind of I'll skim over these paragraphs. These paragraphs basically just explain in words what this drawing is doing. So basically, a proposal starts in our ideation. Ideation is kind of like the feedback system, the DAO. So anyone who has what they think is a good idea might start there and just say, "Hey guys, what if we did this? Does this sound like a good idea?" And we hope for it to be kind of like this place where ideas kind of organically emerge from the DAO. And some things live in ideation, and then maybe they don't get that much traction. Maybe they die on the vine. Other things are maybe recurring conversations. Multiple people have brought it up, and then we kind of connect them to old threads, etc. And then at some point, and this is kind of a messy process, at some point it feels like, hey, there's enough kind of momentum behind this. So we think that we can have the level of support that this looks like a proposal that would pass through MoonDAO's governance. And we really try to encourage people to start at ideation, because it's the best way to like actually get a sense for is this something that MoonDAO's community would support. Oftentimes I think people come to me or Ryan or anyone else in the executive team at MoonDAO, and then ask us like, hey, would MoonDAO fund this? And we try to reroute them over to ideation, and usually that's a bit more productive. But from there, from that kind of loose, unstructured sort of thought of like, hey, I should do this thing, we ask people to put it into this format. And the format, there's a template on the website, and maybe it's worth actually going to that template so you guys can see where this lives. So if you go on the app, you'll see this governance section, and you'll see all of the proposals here, and a submissions portal where you can actually put in a proposal. And essentially, we ask for a summary of the idea, the problem that you're trying to solve, the solution that you have, why MoonDAO should do this, what are the benefits to the community, why might this go wrong, or what basically you can think of benefits as what are the pros, risks, what are the cons, like what might go wrong here, why might we not want to do this. And then we I used to work at Google. We use the OKR system. I don't know, it works decently enough. There's people have their opinions about the objectives and key results. I think they generally are a good vector for just putting into simple statements like what are you trying to do, and then like some other results that might indicate success on that. So we ask people to kind of boil down the actual proposal into these objectives. Lastly, or actually not lastly, but after that, we go into kind of the like, what does this look like in project form? So like, who is implementing this? And a critical component to that is who is the project lead. And the project lead is really the champion of that proposal. They're the one who attends the weekly meetings, which we'll see some people come up here to talk about their projects in a little bit, but they'll come in and they'll talk about the updates on the project. They actually control who is a member of that team. So we basically, after running over 60, maybe 70 now of these projects, we found that it's pretty critical to have one person that can kind of keep the team accountable, and so that might mean if you realize that actually your team doesn't have the skills required to execute on the proposal, maybe bringing someone else in that's new, or if someone disappears, then removing them from the team and replacing them with someone else. There kind of usually needs to be some level of management within a team that can kind of work with the team and make sure that it actually gets the end goal. Um, and so the thing that I look for the most and oftentimes is like, who is the project lead on this? Have they been contributing to MoonDAO for a while? Do we know what's their background? Do they have this kind of skills required? And this person also, on top of all of that, will sit on a governance council for MoonDAO that reviews incoming proposals. And the idea is there, well, we want it to be decentralized, and someone who's actually gone through the process can give feedback to others that are kind of following in their footsteps. And so that is actually what forms the basis of our Senate. So you'll sometimes hear, okay, there's a MoonDAO Senate, voting on proposals, etc. So these are people that are looking at proposals and making sure that they actually meet all of the criteria to they actually follow the governance model, the Constitution. Do they actually have a concrete plan to execute on this? Is the team the right team? Is the budget generally in the right ballpark? And so we have that kind of conversation here in these town halls where someone comes in with their proposal, and they'll talk about, hey, they'll pitch it to the Senate first, and then that goes up to vote on Snapshot. So some other features of proposals. So once they actually pass, they turn into a project, and that project will have a treasury that's assigned to it. So we actually send funds directly from MoonDAO's treasury into the project treasury, and that takes the form of a multi-sig. Timeline is usually helpful, so we know whether or not the project is on track, or is it succeeding? Is it doing well? As they're going, we can kind of look at the timeline and say, okay, this is kind of maybe is it on track to actually meet the deadline, or is this going to extend another quarter? And then finally, we ask for the actual transactions that people will have to execute for this project to go through. So this is usually like some amount of ETH that's required in order to maybe pay for servers or whatever is needed in order to like actually do the thing that you need to do. So going back to this, so we've kind of explained the proposal anatomy, and now we kind of need to explain what happens to a proposal as it's going through. So I've kind of already touched a little bit on the Senate. So the Senate is composed of other people that have successfully passed projects. They make sure that the proposal meets all of the criteria that's required, and we kind of have a conversation about it at these town halls, and then we put it up for vote with all of the members of the DAO. So at this point, I'll kind of dive into the member house, because there's some features there that I think are worth kind of elucidating. So we use what we call a staked quadratic voting model, and so we can kind of break down what that means word by word. So staked means that you actually take the tokens and then you lock them for some period of time. And the reason we do that is we want to give more governance power to people that have basically demonstrated a long-term commitment to the DAO. This was kind of something that we felt is really important. We want to have like a long-term commitment within the DAO, and it had kind of become a bit of a pattern within other DAOs and other DeFi protocols to use this sort of staked model. And so we adopted it at MoonDAO, and it's been pretty successful. But then you might ask the question, well, what happens if someone has, over 50% of all of the tokens? We just have some whale that comes in and they, basically control that whole governance house. Well, in order to answer that question, we use quadratic voting, and that is we take the square root of that person's stake. And so that means that essentially it's impossible to have over 50% control of the entire voting mechanism within the DAO. It becomes basically increasingly more difficult to have more influence with there's you can think of it as on a graph, the square root, it kind of hits a limit over time, and there's uh, decreasing returns on your governance investment, I guess. And so if your proposal passes both the Senate and the member house, that basically means that we're going to go do it, and it goes over to the execution layer, which requires 5 signers. We have a treasury that has a 5 of 7 signing threshold, and this treasury is essentially tasked with putting that proposal into the exact transactions, the code that needs to run, and then turning the key to make sure that, hey, everything is correct here as described in this proposal. We've turned it into a set of transactions. Everyone reviews those transactions, and then turns the key to sign. And then at that point, it becomes a project. And so, yeah, this is kind of in writing basically what I just said. We've kind of gone from the ideation, Senate, member house to the actual funding and roll execution on chain. And now we'll get into the 4 and 5 here, which is project work is getting done, and then how do you actually keep this system accountable? And so this is like the finance layer of the DAO. So once a proposal is completed, we actually have a reward cycle that we do at the end of the quarter. So basically, there's some upfront costs to actually executing on the proposal, and that might include the fixed costs of whatever needs to be done. So if it's like a in real life type proposal, maybe for example with the time card project, you actually need to buy a time card. But then what we want to do as a DAO is essentially reward proposals that have successfully executed with ETH. So some portion of our treasury, we actually emit 5% of our treasury every quarter, and then a governance stake as well. So this is we use geometric series. So if you're familiar with Bitcoin and how the rewards work with Bitcoin, in Bitcoin's case, there's a halvening every 4 years or so. In MoonDAO's case, we do a 5% reward reduction every quarter, which ends up being about the same as kind of a halvening every 4 years. And so, that way, essentially, it's an infinite game. There's always some amount of MOONEY that will be distributed over time to all of the proposals that are successfully executed on. And so this is something that we've tinkered with a lot. This is something that we've tried to kind of ensure kind of meets that keeps the system accountable, keeps projects accountable, but isn't kind of overly burdensome or complicated. And so we've been kind of refining this a lot, and actually want to show you guys where this lives also in the app. So basically, if you go back to the app here under the contribute section, if you go to projects, so there's this get rewards section, and essentially here you'll see the current projects that are active right now within MoonDAO, and also the rewards. So this quarter we're going to be distributing 9.4 million MOONEY and about 6 ETH to all of the projects. And anyone that is executing on our project that completes the final report gets included into this incentive system. You can also view past projects here and their final reports. But yeah, Yeah, this has been this is actually just recently live. This was the work that we did last quarter. All right. So we've gotten to the end of the proposal to project system, and now I want to explain the Space Acceleration Network. And so, oh, this is a little bit too big now. Make this a little smaller. So essentially, what a lot of people's first steps are within MoonDAO is basically to become a citizen, or maybe they register a team within MoonDAO. And so this is like MoonDAO's like core product. What we felt was really important is we want to create an experience around like every individual at MoonDAO, and make sure that we're actually fulfilling some real like need for them. And so we identified a few key things that we think that our community could really benefit from. So one of them is a contributions portal. So this is open to all citizens. Anyone, any week, can basically say what they've done in helping further MoonDAO's mission. And this doesn't necessarily have to be associated with any project, or doesn't even necessarily have to do anything. Like, it doesn't have to be a MoonDAO thing. It just, as long as it fits within kind of the broader mission of MoonDAO of accelerating a lunar base, this can kind of take whatever format you think the MoonDAO community might want to reward. And so, there's a portion of our treasury that we dedicate specifically to this contributions portal. And so this is kind of like a what did you get done this week type idea. We also have a jobs board where sorry, my dog needs to run outside. I'm almost done, but okay. So basically, we have a jobs board. We've got a marketplace. Basically, you can think of this as like we've got two sides of a market that we're trying to support. We've got companies on one end that might want funding from MoonDAO. They might want to list jobs. They might have products or services that they want to list on the marketplace. And maybe, if they want to get funding from MoonDAO or the launchpad that we're creating, they'll need to be onboarded into this ecosystem. So we set them up with a multi-signature wallet. And on the other end of things, we might have someone that wants to get involved in MoonDAO, but they've never, taken any steps within crypto. So we help them out. We could give them an embedded wallet. We create a profile for them so that they can, network with other people. And then we give them access into MoonDAO's governance so that they can help take an active role in creating the organization and in furthering our mission. And so, yeah. Lastly, I kind of have this index of a bunch of links, and I'm going to continue populating this. But yeah, eventually we'll render this on the website. Thanks for listening. And yeah, hopefully people walked away with a bit more of an idea around what MoonDAO is and kind of how it works at a systems level. And yeah, I did it in 24 minutes. It's not too bad. I hopefully I can get it down to 10 at some point. But yeah, that's basically all I have. So Ryan, I'll pass it over to you. Also happy to answer any questions too. But I'm gonna let my dog out because my dog's here whining. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Pablo. Yeah, that was great. Great overview. Really kind of captures some of the complexity that we have here at MoonDAO and boils it down into a pretty understandable format. I don't know if anyone has any questions in the audience. I mean, feel free to write them in chat here. But yeah, also wanted to highlight some of the great contributions that we had coming in that Pablo was talking about. Like, citizens can submit them through our contributions portal. We get some great stuff coming in every week. Like, we had Faber, one of our citizens, do a giveaway on Instagram to his followers for some patches and stickers that flew to space with Eiman. Obviously, Jonathan McDowell, who was here last week, giving a talk, he also submitted there. And like Giovanna referring a friend who was Jair into the network. So those kind of one-on-one growth is something that you can obviously claim as a contribution to help grow MoonDAO or help our mission. But yeah, if there's no questions directly about that, we can kind of shift gears towards the project roundtable updates. I don't know, Eiman, are you available to chat? I think you're traveling today, but hey, Eiman, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear me? I only have one headphone in.
Yep, can hear you all right.
All right. Yeah. So Pablo, myself, and Kevin, who was the videographer for our documentary, met yesterday. They're hoping to get us a final kind of initial draft on by the end of the month, which is running about 14 minutes. But we're also going to look back and see if we can add some of the like origin story, for lack of a better term. And that was Pablo's idea about like how I got the ticket to space through MoonDAO. And so they're going to go through some of the interview I did with them. And then I also sent them like the audio from when you guys actually told me about the ticket, you know, the like announcement to them. So I think that is the next plan. You know, the question is, can we increase it from like 14 minutes to something like 17 or 18 minutes? And then maybe there'll be an idea of where we could kind of put it out there. We still haven't come up with that idea of like what we're going to do with it, but I think it was good. I think it'll be exciting to see what the initial draft looks like, and then kind of decide what we think might need to be added, or what else we might need to do with it, or if it, you know, looks good and we want to kind of go from there. That's where that stands for now.
Awesome. Good to get some
I don't know if
updates
Pablo,
there.
you had anything to say about it. I mean, yeah.
No, it was great to meet Kevin though, and yeah, exciting that it's all coming together, and yeah, hopefully we can kind of add a little extra to what you guys have already put together.
When's the next launch, Eiman? You're on your way, right?
Well, I cannot say dates, but
Yeah.
as you saw, they announced the crew.
The crew.
There'll be 6 people flying on this mission, and typically, if you look at their history, they announce the crew about somewhere between 3 days to 7 days before launch. So I don't know. That's what traditionally has happened. So we'll just leave it at that. But yes, I'm in the Austin airport on the way to El Paso.
Awesome. Got my NS-26 hat. Finally flew back to Seattle and got some of this awesome stuff that that you sent me a while back. So got my shirt as
That's
well.
awesome.
Very exciting.
I'm bummed that I'm not there. We could actually grab a cup of coffee or something, but next time I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, thanks for sending all that and my space flown stuff too. But yeah, Bob, are you available to chat about WBA?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So yeah, WBA. So updates this week is basically I completed the application form, and I've circulated it to the first 2 members of the review committee. Titan and Dr. Eiman both agreed to serve on the committee. I did ping all citizens. I will say it's not exclusive to citizens, but anybody from the community who wants to help out. We're looking for volunteers on the review committee. We've already gotten some confirmation from Chef and Risk, I think, from the I-24 crew, who are also citizens, to help out. But you would definitely like 1 or 2 more members. So if anybody's interested, please send me a DM or post in the project channel. The rationale for having a little bit of a larger committee is that we don't all have to review 60 applications. You know, everybody can do like 1 or 2 committee members per application, rate them, and then we can all meet together as a team of 6 or 7 and then decide the finalists from there. If anybody has any questions or wants a bit more information about the process, let me know. I'll try to post regular updates beyond what I say in the town hall in the Discord channel. We are creating a private group chat for the committee, and the reason is some of the information we're asking about on the application is is personal sensitive information, so we don't necessarily want to circulate need-based information beyond whoever needs to know. But if you have any questions about the process or want to get involved, please let me know, and happy to take any questions anybody has.
Cool. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'll give a quick little update here on the MOONEY to the Moon project that was recently just passed during the last cycle. It was approved successfully with a 90-something% approval rate. And we've already executed on the transaction to send the MOONEY to the lunar capsule. So that 20 million MOONEY is now on the multi-sig wallet, which is partially controlled by that lunar capsule. That also included a $2,000 payment for the ETH Denver sponsorship. So we're working on getting together the video and art and whatnot for that here by the end of this week, which will be on display kind of at the main entrance hall of ETH Denver. I know Pablo will be out there, I believe Jade as well in Denver next week. So if you or anybody you know happens to be around there and wants to connect with the MoonDAO crew, definitely let us know. Should be a pretty major event in the Ethereum ecosystem, one of the biggest obviously each year. So that's pretty exciting. Bill, are you available to chat about the space-time card?
Yes, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, sorry I'm late. I got on a Zoom call this morning with the team as they plugged in the clock. They received the dev board from the manufacturer, which has its own software and whatever that exposes all of the features and all of the telemetry from the clock, and everything is in order and working. So today and into the weekend, I've asked the team to collect telemetry and compare it to their models and expectations. And that includes things like, do the specs match the data sheet? Can you drive it with GPS input if you put your own antenna on there, etc. And yeah, that's the near term, one of the near term goals. They said that they were blocked up until now on some of their hardware designs, like the PCBs that they're designing themselves, because they needed extra information that wasn't in the data sheet, and they wanted to actually poke the board itself and check. So now that this is running, they're unblocked on that front, and are like finalizing their control loop for the clock sync algorithm. And then once that's complete, they'll send out the PCB design for to get printed at the fab shop. So what they have working now is the clock, the dev board to run the clock, Raspberry Pi GNSS server that emulates like the rest of the satellite. In work is an enclosure that looks like a CubeSat to test form factor and also protect the clock itself. And the next step is to implement their own control loop and also validate their simulations.
Cool. Thank you, Phil. We're missing Christina this week to give an update about Sea and Space London. I know she was just traveling back from Europe though, so I'm sure that's why. Pablo, do you want to chat a little bit about Launchpad and Treasury and token management?
Yep. Okay, I'll start with the Treasury and token management. So we completed a swap on our Treasury to take a portion of the ETH that we had, about 40% of it, and turned it into Bitcoin. That's wrapped Bitcoin versus actual, it's still within the Ethereum ecosystem, Ethereum Treasury. The other big piece of news is Jade's finished writing a script for the airdrop, and I'm reviewing it now to make sure that it's all the code looks good. I was doing that right before this meeting, so hopefully we'll execute on that airdrop soonish. So that'll be an airdrop to all of the citizens and MOONEY holders. Our next kind of big milestone with the Treasury and token management is to set up this liquidity fee routing. We've kind of put together a little bit of an architecture around it. I think it's going to be really exciting. Essentially, it will be a stream that will be received by MOONEY holders, we'll get into the weeds a little bit with that more as we kind of roll it out and communicate it a bit more to people. But it'll add an economic right to the token beyond just governance, which I think is a really exciting step for MoonDAO. On the Launchpad side, we're reaching kind of a big milestone tomorrow. Essentially, we've got all of the designs. Michi's been making some really beautiful stuff to help communicate the Launchpad and kind of walk through. We kind of put together a little bit of a user journey as people are going through and trying to figure out, okay, who are the people we're trying to target with this Launchpad, etc. And we're kind of finalizing those designs. Meanwhile, Colin's been doing some awesome work, and sometimes almost faster than even our designs. He's already implemented a lot of the big components for the Launchpad, and so now we're kind of just in the process of getting to that kind of MVP type stage where you can launch one of these projects through this, and that'll all be like really. I think it's one of the most exciting projects that we've worked on here in a while. So, but that's pretty much it on my end in terms of updates. Pass it back over to you, Ryan.
Bob had a question here about the airdrop, the governance airdrop. Is that going to be accessible in the same manner as like the /withdraw page, I guess?
Yes. So we'll be using that same mechanism. So you'll get a notification to go to that moondao.com/withdraw, and then you'll be able to access your funds there.
Cool. Thank you, Pablo. I guess that's about it for our weekly table project up. Again, if you have any contributions that you made here in the past week, to use the moondao.com/contribute portal and be sure to share that. We recently passed the 100 citizens, as I'm sure you're all are aware of. We're up to, I guess, 103 right now. I don't know if we shared last week, but we had our first onboarding with Base. So people can now onboard by paying on the Base L2 network, which is super cool. So we had our first person do that thanks to Jade's hard work. But yeah, that's basically it for this week. We can have an open floor over in the Major Tom channel if people want to hop over here. But otherwise, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome to MoonDAO, a revolutionary governance model and mission-oriented community that's reshaping collaboration in the space industry. Our mission is to create a self-sustaining, self-governing settlement on the moon to act as a launch point into the cosmos. MoonDAO is governed like a nation, with its own economy, constitution, voting system, treasury, elections, and senate. But internet native, and so without the limitations of geography. In 2022, we sent our first member to space, showcasing our model's capacity for real-world impact. Now, we're implementing key solutions for global collaboration in the space industry. We offer a borderless, permissionless platform that enables everyday people to participate in the future of space development and exploration. Be part of our lunar legacy and join the MoonDAO movement today.